Hi everybody, happy Digital Learning Day. I'm Gary Greenberg, Director of Educational Technology for CET in Cincinnati. And we're bringing you today a special session on teaching computer science for grades K-5. In Ohio, CET and the other Ohio EdTechs have a special partnership with a nonprofit maker of computer science curricula, code.org. Through our relationship, we've been bringing a one-day introduction to computer science workshop for K-5 teachers to school districts throughout the state. Over the past few years, our organizations and code.org have had thousands of teachers participate in this professional learning workshop called Computer Science Fundamentals. Now the exciting news is that we will soon be offering an advanced version of this introductory K-5 workshop to districts. It's called the Deep Dive Workshop. And with us to give you a full picture of the workshop and how it complements our introduction to computer science is code.org's Brooke Osborne. Please note that Brooke and I will be responding to your questions through a Google Doc listed on the screen, so please put questions to us as they occur to you. Here's Brooke.
Hello. Thank you so much for allowing me to join you today on Digital Learning Day to talk a little bit about the Code.org CS Fundamentals program. My name is Brooke Osborne, and I'm an Education Program Manager at Code.org. I'm actually from Ohio, so I'm really excited to be speaking to some Ohio folks today, and really excited to be with you to celebrate Digital Learning Day. So I'm going to be giving you an overview of our program features for the CS Fundamentals program. And to get started, let's just sort of orient ourselves in thinking about what this program actually is. So CS Fundamentals is a curriculum and professional development pairing that's been created to support K-5 educators who want to integrate the code.org model into their classroom and into their instruction. On the curriculum front, we have courses dedicated to each grade, grades K through 5, and those courses are all aligned to the CSTA standards, and where appropriate, they're also mapped to ELA, math, and science standards. I know that computer science standards have just recently passed there in Ohio, so hopefully these are some helpful resources for you to use when you think about implementing CS curriculum in your classroom that meet those new standards. On the professional development front, our programs assume no prior experience with our curriculum or computer science in general, and it's built for all K-5 educators. That ranges from tech teachers, media specialists, classroom teachers, sort of runs the gamut. And the program is designed to support all of those unique implementation constraints and needs. So let's get started by talking about the CS Fundamentals curriculum itself. And before we get into the weeds on what's covered in our CS Fundamentals curriculum, I want to take a few seconds to tell you about the Code.org curriculum values. These values underpin all of the courses and curricula that we build at Code.org, and they sort of are the way that we think about creating experiences in classrooms for students and teachers. So the first one here is that computer science is foundational for every student. We don't view computer science at Code.org as something that is meant for just select few students. Instead, we look at it as something that all students should have meaningful access to. And part of how that happens is through our second value here, which is teachers and classrooms. We believe that meaningful and authentic access to computer science education comes through teachers and classrooms providing that access, not by students sort of self-serving on their own, but by meaningful learning experiences that are shepherded through and facilitated by teachers. We view student engagement and learning as the cornerstone to the work that we do and the lessons that we create. It's really essential for us that students can actively engage in authentic learning that meets their individual needs and helps them grow as learners in the 21st century while they go through our computer science curricula. In order to make that possible, equity is really a cornerstone of our work with curriculum. We think about diverse learning needs a lot. We think about what it means for every student to have access and the realities of that, what it means about who we need to support and how we need to support them. And then last but not least, we view curriculum as a service. So that means that it's not the sort of static thing that's created and then sits on a shelf, but it's something that we are actively supporting for our user base. We have a commitment to make our curriculum open and available to everyone forever at no cost. That's our commitment for our curriculum. So it is an ongoing process to refine that product and make it the best thing that it can be by working with our end users, which are teachers and students in classrooms. So those are the values that sort of sit behind every course that Code.org creates. But let's talk specifically about the courses in the CS Fundamentals pathway. I mentioned before that this is a program designed for K through 5 educators, and there are distinct courses that sit at each grade level in the K through 5 progression in elementary school. So you'll sometimes hear CS Fundamentals referred to as courses A through F. Those represent each of the grade bands. It's really important to note that those sort of grade bands exist primarily as a way for us to think about what is developmentally appropriate for students, when they ought to be experiencing different types of activities or different content. But it is absolutely sort of reasonable to shift these courses based on the needs of your students. So we definitely have second grade classes that are using course B rather than course C. That's why it's not called grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, things like that. That's why we have these sort of more flexible names. But courses A through F give you a sense of the developmental appropriateness of each of these courses for elementary school students. These courses are all built on some core curriculum features. First and foremost, there's a mix of unplugged and plugged activities. When we say unplugged and plugged, what that really means is kinesthetic offline activities for unplugged, and then online sort of puzzle-based and problem-based programming activities for plugged lessons. And those lessons are always connected to one another. We always have a connection from the unplugged activity that students do into some plugged computer-based thing. And that's a core feature of all of our courses in CS Fundamentals. Another really important thing, and this speaks to that developmental appropriateness piece, is that course length gets longer as students get older. So we know that a 5-year-old's attention span is a little different than a 10-year-old's for different reasons. The amount of time that is reasonable or possible to spend with students on this increases as they get older. So the courses are built to support that. In the same way that we don't assume teachers have any prior knowledge in computer science, the courses themselves are built assuming that students don't have prior knowledge in computer science, which means that there are ramp-ups when students need to know what would have been taught in the previous course if they don't actually have that context. So we're trying to be as flexible as possible to the realities of implementation, and not assuming prior knowledge is a key piece of that. And then last but not least, not only are we focusing on what's developmentally appropriate for students in terms of their own sort of cognitive development, we're also thinking a lot about literacy and math skills. So as much as possible, we are tying to what we know about standards that exist for K-5 students and leveraging those as a way to sort of set guideposts for what's developmentally appropriate and grade level appropriate in those other skills that we know will be sort of essential for this. So that's the high-level overview of the curriculum. Let's talk now about the professional learning program. Intro workshops right now are being run all over the country. I zoomed in here as close as I could on Ohio so you could see the different workshops that are set up in Ohio right now. There are many of them. So if you go to code.org, our website, and you click into the professional development workshops for CS Fundamentals, you'll see this map, and you can sign up for a workshop near you. Another option is to contact our regional partner at Battelle. Gary will add information about that at the end of this call or this talk. But you can get in touch with them to talk to them about having workshops scheduled for a whole district. That's another way that folks sign up for workshops. But intro workshops are running right now, both in context that individual teachers can sign up for and that whole districts can sign up for, and you can find more information about that over on our website. Now, let's talk deep dive workshop. I mentioned before, this one is still under development. We're piloting it right now. But the real focus here of the deep dive workshop is to put an emphasis on addressing the challenges that people who are currently teaching this class are having. So how do we help you implement even better than you already are? That's kind of the mantra there. This workshop is a similar structure in terms of sort of majority of time spent on curriculum and teaching practice. But instead of giving context for what computer science is, we start the day by talking about barriers and supports, what is and isn't working in your classroom. And we can do that because everyone in a deep dive workshop is already teaching the course. So we start the day by talking about those barriers and supports. We practice some key teaching strategies together. We look further at materials on the code.org website. And then we transition into talking more about and practicing more about actual teaching practice. We have made decisions for this particular workshop about the types of lessons that we're going to look at, and those are lessons that are further into the curriculum. In the intro workshop, we're looking at lessons that are earlier on in the courses, and here in the deep dive, we're looking at lessons that are deeper into the curriculum because the intro workshop is about getting people started, and deep dive is about keeping people going. So we look at lessons, we talk about how to actually make sure that your implementation is equitable, challenges that people have encountered, what those have looked like, and how they can address them. And then we transition to planning at the end of the day, where folks have space to plan lessons on their own or in groups, and then work out an implementation plan for how they want to address future lessons of CS fundamentals in their classroom. So I mentioned that this is currently under development. I want to talk through briefly the timeline that we're using for that development. We started developing the agenda back in spring of 2018, and that was based on input from lots of stakeholders. So we talked to facilitators, we talked to teachers, we talked to our partners across the country to understand what types of supports teachers need to be successful in continuing their use of the CS Fundamentals program and curriculum. From there, we developed a first version of the agenda and did an internal pilot where myself and other code.org staff facilitated all of those workshops. So we were very obviously able to very closely monitor the effect of those workshops and then make changes. We've transitioned now to an external pilot where we are working very closely with a handful of our partners across the country to refine that agenda based on feedback from facilitators and from teachers. And then finally, the program will be released and offered across the country starting in the summer of 2019, so very soon, later this year. And that's the opportunity or that's the point in time where districts will, for example, have the opportunity to sign their teachers up for both the intro workshop and the deep dive workshop as a package to support their implementation. We also will have opportunities for teachers to sign up for the deep dive in a one-off basis based on availability by partner. So deep dive is coming soon, and before it releases and before we move on, I want to tell you a little bit about what we've learned so far in piloting the deep dive, what our results have looked like. First, we survey our participants at the end of these workshops, and one of the questions that we ask and one of the things that we want to understand is the impact of the deep dive on people's plans to teach. And the vast majority of people plan to teach more of their courses as a result of attending the deep dive than they planned to prior to attending. And in fact, folks who respond either in the same amount or the less category here, they often provide commentary to the effect of what we see here. This teacher said, I want to teach more of the lessons after my workshop because I got so many great ideas and have a better understanding of the courses and content, but due to time constraints and having a STEM class now instead of technology, I have to get in other subjects besides coding. This teacher goes on to explain that they plan to try and find other ways to get teachers in schools to teach even more. So often what ends up happening when folks do fall in this category of not being able to or not planning to teach more, it's because they're really realizing their constraints and the constraints of their school, which is a great outcome. It's always great to see people teach more, but it's even better to see people have a better connection to their implementation realities. We also asked teachers an open-ended question about how and what they acquired in terms of strategies to address barriers to implementation. And specifically in that set of questions, there's one question where we say, during our workshop, did you acquire any new strategies or ideas that will help you address the barriers you've experienced in implementing CS fundamentals? And responses to that question are overwhelmingly positive. Almost all teachers, like vast majority, 97% of teachers say that yes, they acquired new strategies to address the barriers that they're experiencing. So that's a real win for us, and that's something that we view as really important in helping people successfully implement once they get back to the classroom, is targeting specifically the challenges that they're facing and giving them strategies. And then this here is just a pull quote that I grabbed from the survey, so you can get a sense of the general feeling that we've heard from teachers who have exited this program. They say things like, that was 8 hours well spent. I never got glassy-eyed. Seeing it a second time made me feel much more grounded. I think I needed to fail a little and then debug. So this teacher is really demonstrating the habits of mind that we want to see in our teachers so they can create those environments and those opportunities for their students. So that's sort of a check-in on Deep Dive. Again, that will be available across the country starting in summer of 2019. So be on the lookout for that. Be in touch with your partner at Battelle about that, or with any of your CS Fundamentals facilitators to see when those opportunities will be available in your area. I think one of the missing pieces here, we've talked about the intro workshop, we've talked about the deep dive workshop, we've talked about the curriculum, but what happens after you've experienced those supports? And I wanted to take a moment to talk about the world beyond these workshops. And talk about the supports that are available to you. First and foremost, you have your local community. So please, please, please remember to keep in touch with your Code.org regional partner, who's Battelle there in Columbus. Keep in touch with them. Understand what community opportunities they might be planning or what additional supports they might have for you. Keep in touch with the teachers from your workshops. There's always a space at your workshop to share contact information with one another. And we've seen teachers who had never met before leverage other teachers that they met in their workshops and keep in touch for literally years after their workshop. So I really encourage you to view those other teachers as a resource as you get into offering this material. And then don't forget about your CS Fundamentals facilitators there in Ohio. There's a great group of facilitators who are focused on supporting teachers. And if you run into challenges and want additional support, I'm certain that they will have ideas about where to direct you and how to help you. So that's your local community there in Ohio. Then we also have your national community. I want to remind you, and maybe you don't know, but we have a forum at forum.code.org, which is a great way to interact with other teachers from across the country, as well as Code.org staff. We monitor that forum, and we're happy to provide any support that we can when you have questions. Other teachers are there as well. So there's a national community that you can leverage through that forum. And then last but not least, there's direct Code.org support. Anytime you have a question that maybe is a little too personal to put on the forum or something that you need individualized support on, feel free to send us an email at support.code.org and we are happy to help. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much. Again, it's been such a pleasure to join you today on Digital Learning Day to talk a little bit about our offerings and how we support K-5 educators in bringing computer science to their students. Have a great day, and I'm sending it back to Gary.
Thanks, Brooke Osborne, and thanks to all the folks at the fantastic Code.org organization. Thanks as well to our regional partner in this work, Battelle Education in Columbus. In Ohio, we're really looking forward to bringing both the introductory computer science workshop and the advanced deep dive workshops to your districts. As in the past, both these workshops will be available to teachers and schools free of charge. The deep dive workshop will be available in Ohio starting in late May of this year. To find out how to take advantage of these professional learning workshops, please contact me at CET Public TV using the email or phone number on the screen. And please enjoy the rest of your digital learning day.